Sorry, I forgot.
But there were also some good conversations during the rest of the week too. So there were a number of sessions with BioCaddy where BioCaddy was represented. So, for example, as part of RDA, there was a search interest group which started up that is being co-led by Anita Devar from Elsevier. So we participated in that. There will probably be some ongoing activities as part of that. There was also a bunch of discussion around sort of metadata and metadata processes. Susanna had a panel as well. So there were a number of activities following the AHM that also spurred some discussion. And so one of the questions is, that came out of the search interest group, is there a number of different data search projects, BioCaddy, there's a group at Elsevier who's working on this. And so, how does one sort of compare or allow people to search across, the different endpoints, knowing that there are potentially multiple of these. And so, that interest group is just starting out, and we'll probably define a working group at some point. There are a number of different topics from standard metadata to standard APIs to access the endpoint. So we'll see what that interest group kicks out.
So, Jeff, for this interest group, do we have, besides, so obviously you are a member of it, so do people need to sign up to be a member of the interest group?
Yes, you can. I don't know if people are already signed up for RDA, for the Research Data Alliance, but you need to create an account there, and then there's the various interest groups, and then you can sign up for that interest group so you get the emails and the like.
Okay. So maybe it would be useful for people on the CDT to be on this interest group. So Jeff is talking about, Fua just walked in. Jeff is talking about an interest group that came up called a search interest group in RDA.
Yeah, I can get the exact name. I'm huddled.
I think
somewhere.
I signed up for one of the RDA's working group. I forgot which it is. I keep it.
I think I may be a member. I know I'm a member of RDA, but I think I signed up for this, through their electronic I am here.
Okay.
I'll double check, but I agree. This is a good place for core development team members to participate.
And also, Jeff, you had a demo and a presentation, right, at RDA?
Many. There were two demos. There's at the search group. I gave a little presentation and part demo. It was half. There was another. I forget, it was a bird of a feather that Mark Meeson put together. Where
right, I think I was referring to that.
Yeah, no. So there were multiple. Yeah, and there was another one too, which I.
So did you get any specific feedback?
No specific. Most of the feedback or most of the discussion was in the interest group, actually. The bird of the feather was more sort of presenting, what BioCaddy and other projects had. We did run into. We did actually have a follow-up with someone from the Internet Archive.
Okay.
Because they're wanting to archive data sets and all that, but it was more of a he thought things were interesting, so we exchanged business cards, but that was about there wasn't any specific follow-up there because they're looking at now because they provide sort of deep back-end storage that they're also looking to sort of host data sets, but they haven't really started yet. They're just sort of exploring that.
Okay.
Jeff, on the note of repositories, were there any additional contacts with any of those during the week?
There weren't many specific repositories. The one follow-up, it's actually a repository not of data, but of data to publication links. So that's the Scholix framework. And there's a new working group kicking off, and so I'm actually now part of that. I'm one of the co-chairs. I got dragged into being a co-chair. That's with Martin Fenner and Bouta Hawk. So Martin Fenner from DataSite, Bouta Hawk from Elsevier. And that's really, trying to provide hubs to aggregate this data to publication information, which is what, we're starting to use in BioCaddy. So that's something that's, tied to BioCaddy in terms of us being able to pull data, from that hub, which we can start investigating, so that we get more information about where data is cited in the literature.
Right. I think earlier, probably a couple of months ago, we had looked at Scholix briefly. So anybody else?
Sorry, Anu, just to say that I've joined like a few minutes ago because I wasn't sure if there was a call today, but I just tried.
Okay. We were just talking about the BioCaddy All Hands meeting and all the presentations of BioCaddy that went on in the International Data Week.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
So if not, then I guess the next, actually I would have, as I said, we would really like to have Eunice and her team also be present when we discuss this. So the idea is to talk about inclusion of more repositories into DataMed. We have two spreadsheets for this. Both of them are available. So we have, if you remember, earlier when we did version 1 release, we did have a list spreadsheet which is available via resources in the BioCaddy Google Drive, and under that we had a list of repositories that had to be indexed for DataMed version, whatever versions we were doing at that time. So we created a similar one for version 2, and what we have currently is what has been mapped to DATS 2.1 for all of these repositories, since we are remapping and we're going to be reindexing, and also whether it's in version 2 or not. And maybe if we decide to go in for earlier releases, then we can add a couple of columns to see what we are going to have in. So here I have a list of all the teams that actually worked on these specific repositories earlier. So the same teams will go back and map to DATS 2.1. And once we are done with that, then Jeff's team will work with ingesting and indexing. Additionally, we have I have also added, actually this is what we should probably talk about a little later as well. I have added the repositories that came to us via the repository submission form, which is what Sanda has been working on. And what I did is I just added the repositories here and then linked them to the GitHub issue that we have going on, so that there is some kind of information flow from here to GitHub. So if you want to go in and look for specific additional information, we can go in and then get that information. And then Ron had sent out a list of potential repositories that that the commons, that they are thinking of including in the commons. And some of them are things that we have actually already looked at. I mean, we have already indexed, or we we are planning to index. So I excluded those from our list, and I included only those here. I don't know. You can say. Okay, here I included only those which are not in our list, but which may be coming on in the comments pretty soon. The other things, one is like a very comprehensive list which says mods database, and I linked that up to a list of mods databases that we made a list of earlier. So these are the mods databases that we have a list of. I don't know if the Ron, you need to let me know if this is the same, if they're thinking of putting all of them into comments or some of them. But we have a list of about 12. I think maybe of those, 1 or 2 are probably already indexed, but the remaining can be worked on.
All right, send me that, and I will follow up.
Okay. So the other list that we have, which is actually a list that we probably presented a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if you remember, but this list is something that Ling went in and she created based on a couple of criteria. And for this list, which is actually not a very, we have a list of about 119, of which, so what's this in orange? Oh, okay. So the 119 that we have, so what Ling and GRA here have been doing is to go in and try and compile all the download URL from where we can actually get the metadata for these repositories. So the plan, I guess, is to maybe map and index these 120 repositories. Some of them that we had in the list were already been worked on or were being worked on, so we excluded those. And once we have a more comprehensive list, then we can start working on this in terms of dividing the work and doing it. So the idea was that we could kind of try and do it maybe as fast as possible. So we just wanted to get a little bit of the groundwork done in the meanwhile. I have links to all of these on ReadyTalk, but they're all also available in the resources folder of the BioCaddy Google Drive, and I can send out links also to all of these to everybody on the CDT team if that would be useful.
Yeah, I mean the main thing with this list is to figure out which ones actually have formatted data feeds that we don't have to crawl websites, because some of them that you scrolled by, it's not an actual data feed.
Right. I think that's
it's more of a web page with a listing, and so that's
exactly.
That's one of the key things. Yeah.
So I wonder, Jeff, if we think we need to add some additional columns here and get some additional information, we can do that.
Yeah, I mean, I just think one column that says, has a programmatic data feed or whatever we want to say.
Okay.
Which is either yes or no.
So I also wanted, since we talked about dividing up the work, I also wanted to figure out when you want to meet, Jeff, to maybe decide on a plan and a timeline.
I'm traveling again a little this week, but next week, early next week, we can do it. We should make sure CUNY is on the call.
Yeah, so let me contact CUNY, but I just wanted to get your...
Yeah. No, I mean, the sooner the better.
Okay.
We've already, the other thing that we need to schedule a call for that might not be on this call, we can do it on this call potentially, is to review the DATS 2.1 mapping with the UI developers to make sure that just to sort of round trip that to make sure that everyone understands what is happening in terms of where certain fields are and stuff like that. And there are also a couple of questions for the UI developers that we might want to that we're keeping track of.
So if we are gonna, I guess it's going to be the same people, like Reeling and Shaolin will be the ones who will also be involved in mapping the data. I mean
right.
metadata as well, and maybe Alejandra can be on the call. So Alejandra, would Monday morning work for you?
So it depends at what time. It would be this same time, or?
No, we can do it earlier.
Okay, yeah. If it is earlier, like we've done the previous calls, like at 4 p.m. our time, that's, let me check the calendar, but I think it would. One question related to the DATS 2.1 that you are mapping now. Are you also considering already the schema.org annotations, or that's not being considered yet?
The annotations in.
So we have these context files to produce
right.
JSON. So.
Well, yeah. The mapping that we're doing takes it to the index representation, right? So there's there are no annotations in that.
Okay.
But they would be taken into account if we're doing developing a mapping from DAT to the index itself.
Okay.
So that's what we did, and we actually, in ruling, I can't remember. Did we send you the initial data site index? I think we might have, because we did do the initial DAPS mapping of data site from their current services. Okay,
great. So for Monday, yes, if it is, I think it's 8 a.m. Pacific time. I think it's 4 p.m. this time that work, and I could also manage 5 p.m. so 9 a.m. or so. But maybe actually, 4 is better for me. Okay, if that works.
So Jeff, will that work for you? I'll contact Suni to find out if it will work for her.
Okay, great. Yeah.
No, she's saying 9 a.m. Pacific, so that'll be 11 for us. No, 10 for us.
Yeah, I think it's 8 a.m. Pacific.
Right. Yeah, 8 should work for me.
Okay.
I'll be in the car for the first 5 minutes, but then I'll be back. So.
Okay, so let me contact Suni and find out if they can make it.
Okay, if 4:30 is better for you, Jeff, that
we
cannot
do that. 8 is fine.
Okay.
It's just I drop my son off about 10 of 8, and so it takes me about 10 minutes to get back home.
So another thing that I did want to also touch base is the plan still to do like all of them mapped to DATS 2.1, or do we still plan to go 2 steps where we do the basic 5 or 6 fields first and then?
I think it really depends on how quickly we can map one repository completely.
Yeah, so we already added data site. So that's and Barack should have sent ruling that, and since data site already indexed or has the information on about 15 or so separate repositories, we can add those 15 very quickly since we already have the mapping.
Those 15 is within the 23 we have, or it's addition?
No, that's additional. I mean, data site is already one additional. So that's so the data site one was one of the original ones, was the cancer imaging archive. And so that came out of the June workshop, that we should go to the data site feed for TCIA instead of through TCIA, because they didn't have their own services built out as much as they would like. And so at the June meeting, we decided to go through data site for that. And so that's now implemented. But now, since we have the transformation from data site, which is exporting DATs through their first pass at providing DAT services, we can now pull any of the other repositories that they work with in issuing DOIs. We can pull any of the other repositories via the DAT services. And so we're looking at... Huh?
Will take. How long will that take? You said that additional 15 is already mapped? It's ready?
Well, no, yeah, because we already, because it's DATs, right? So there's one mapping for all the repositories. So we actually, I sort of timed how long it took to do data site, because that was a new one. And since it's a service that we already had a connector for, it took Barack, probably about half the day to, do the connection, generate the sample data, and test it. And then took about another, day in sort of, not work time, but sort of just in elapsed time to do the mapping. And so it took about a day and a half to get the, to get that completed.
Is this will be the one we will expect for a new repository which we don't know? I mean, for any new data repository, we don't have any information. We start from the beginning. What are the time you think we?
Yeah, that's what I said. It's about 2 days.
2 days.
Per, yeah. And then the thing is, it needs. I mean, this is with a service endpoint that provides the metadata, or has a structured feed either via CSV files or XML files or something like that, right? So this assumes that the repository has a way to get us structured information.
Okay, so if the repository doesn't have this, then it will take longer to.
Well, yeah, because then we actually have to do some digging and write code to actually get the information, which is very suboptimal.
Then we probably need to divide it to all the repositories. Some of them already ready. Maybe it's like a 2 or 3 days time frame, but if they're not ready, then that's another time frame. It's like a week time, maybe, or more, to index one such repository.
So I wonder if it might be useful for us, I mean, Hunie's group and us, to do the ones that are completely new, and Jeff can go in and look at the ones that we already have mappings for, because they'll be doing the ingestion and the indexing part.
Right. The one place where it connects is that, and we talked about this a little at the AHM, and what we'll talk about at the Monday meeting, is we need to know which sources to connect and how to connect to them. So for data site, there's api.datasite.org/dats, or /stats and then question mark, and then there are a couple parameters that we need to know. So we need to know what the actual, for example, for services, we need to know what the string is, what the URL is, what is the the flag or the parameter for the offset in the record count, what's the parameter for number of records to fetch, and are there any other parameters, for example, to specify which collection, right? So in DataCite, you specify the publisher. In OAI PMH, you have to specify a collection to crawl. So we need that information so that we can connect the system to it, have it download sample data, so we can get ready for the processing.
So then, Jeff, can I ask you to go in and into this spreadsheet that's on the screen right now and put in exactly the kind of information that you have for DataCite so we can look at it and maybe generate similar information?
Yes,
yeah.
I
think the first step is really to decide if this data repository is ready to index immediately or it will take more time. Then we can decide.
Yeah, can you send me, again, I'm sort of huddled in the corner here.
Sure. I'll send out
Just send me a quick email.
Yeah, and in terms of the mapping, I think Xiaoling and Reiling did some work, but they still have a lot of problems, right? There's a bug, I don't know. The whole pipeline couldn't figure out that they finished everything, but then that doesn't seem like it worked. So maybe you need to set up a meeting with Brock to really go through, and there's no error message come up. It's kind of difficult to debug.
Okay, I'm not sure because there's, depending, if you have the latest code or not, I'm not sure, but the easiest thing to do is to specify the connection file and hand that off to Brock so that we can get it sort of running in the primary system that does all the transformations.
Yeah, I have the source descriptor file, the connection file, and I have sample data. I can send them to Brock.
Yeah. CC me myself.
Figure out what's wrong over there, then I think it will be good for you guys to learn the whole thing, so we know what just from a more kind of outsider view, what are the issues involved in data ingestion pipeline.
Okay, so
this is Dawei. Regarding the list, what is the how do you guys decided the repository is an active repository? Because I saw that list is pretty long.
Active. Where did we get this list, by the way?
So we had this comprehensive list of repositories. I think that had about 600 and odd or 700 repositories. And then Reling went over the repositories, and there were a couple of criteria, right, that you used.
Repository.
So she cut down the numbers based on whether the repository was curated or not, whether it was a repository that had actual data sets in them or not, and then there was one more criteria, I forget now.
Oh, it's downloadable.
Whether it was the metadata was publicly or the data was publicly downloadable or not. So these are the three criteria that was used to actually cut down, or narrow down the number of repositories from about 700 to 120, which is what we have now. So this is outside of the list of repositories that we have prioritized for ingestion in BioCaddy, which is this list.
Okay. We don't have a specific field, just say if they're active, if or not. Maybe we should have sort of find out what's the last updated date or something like that. That will make me.
Yeah, that's be useful because I think based on the statistic, like there's probably 80% of the repository will die, And so like I think like say if we index the retired repository, although the number of data sets are bigger but may not be useful.
Okay, we can double check the list one more time.
Yeah, I mean, retired is because the data might still be. It depends on the type of data, right? If an archive that has data sets, because technically the original ADNI archive is retired, but it's still it's still a valuable asset. Even though they're not adding any data to the original ADNI, because what they're on ADNI 3 now or something like that. So there's a new study. So I mean, it depends on how it is archived. Like if it's so I think that's would have to be reviewed on a per repository basis, depending on what type of data.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. That will be a scientific decision that I think your team will make.
Right.
Okay.
Also coming to the repository submission workflow. So this is workflow that was decided on, and Sandra is on the call. Basically, she has been working on all the repository submission forms that come into GitHub and then assigning that to people. So one of the things that came up is that whatever repository submission forms come into GitHub via the form submission on the website, I think it's got to be entered into the CDT worksheet. So I did it for the current ones that are there. So all I did was to go in there, and you can see here these are all the repositories that came via the repository submission form, and I just linked it to the GitHub issue here. I put in the information of the contact people, the email of the contact person, which is already there, of course, in GitHub, and I put in a link to the GitHub issue as well, so that we have some information going from this direction. So the next question that we actually have is, once the repository contacts us and we get in touch with them. For example, Shaoling got in touch with the 2 repository folks that we were supposed to interact with at UT Health, and Michael immediately responded and sent a JSON file. Let me see. And the file that they sent actually has just this information. I don't know if it's very visible.
Yeah.
So this is what they sent us, but this has been obviously not mapped.
Right, exactly. So the follow-up for this would be to figure out where we can pull this information from dynamically. If not dynamically, then we can potentially create a repository, like a file space for this more static data, and then we just need to let Barak know where to pull the data from, and then he can get the sample data, and then we do the mapping. And for this one, since it's very minimal data, it would be pretty easy. I just don't know what slug is.
Yeah, right.
That's HB
And also,
chat.
is the point for us to do the mapping, or is it for us to help them do the mapping?
And if we want to get a lot through first for this, it would be for us to do the map. This one I don't think we need any. There isn't much help that we needed, because most of these are pretty straightforward, except we would need to figure out what slug is.
Okay.
If that means something. But all, I mean, these all are, title, description.
I think plug might be the
date.
abbreviation.
No.
Or some kind of their internal.
It could be the abbreviation. Yeah, that's right. Or the
because
short
here
name.
it's SHHS, which is the name of the study here.
Yeah. Shaft for child and.
And then heartbeat here.
Yep.
And CFS. So it looks like it might be some kind of an abbreviation. But anyways, they've been very responsive.
I just find out that SLAG means in computing a part of a URL which identifies a particular page, which is interesting. I didn't know that.
So the other question is, if there's deeper metadata, do they have the path/dataset/cfs.json? So is that the actual data, or is that more metadata for that study?
So I checked that path, and also it does this information, normal information in that path. So we can ask them to see if they have some more information about the data set.
Well, the question is also if there's a link specific, like where. Because we need the landing page for the data set as well, and so that might be constructed off this slug. So it might be something like sleepdata.org/CFS or something, or datasplit/CFS. So we need to figure out how to construct the landing page information.
So the next step here would be to ask them if they have deeper metadata or not, and if not, then we just do the mapping out.
Right, yeah, but we also need to know how to get to the landing page for that study, and is there any way to do a direct download from their site of the data? So we can fill out the data distribution section.
All right.
So, regarding the list, the main list and the GitHub issues, how are we keeping track of what is being done to these? Because I think this is my main interest. If from the main list we have a link to GitHub, then I suggest that maybe in GitHub we should enter everything that's happened regarding that repository. Like, for instance, you got metadata, but it's not mapped, or the main steps. So is that something that people think they can do?
Yeah, we can have people going in and putting that in the comment section, right? Is that
just say, we contacted them, they sent this, just the main things that happen, so that we can keep track of what's going on.
Right.
And again,
I think some of the people have already been doing that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I will make sure that they do it. So, and then my other thing that I wanted to ask, because I'm going to have to go in like 5 minutes, is I wanted to confirm that any request that comes through GitHub gets included in this list that Anu is showing right now. What is because I heard the word evaluation, and is there going to be an additional evaluation on these requests, or are they entered in this list just automatically?
So I guess from the original workflow that was discussed was actually that once we have working on the issue, that we would have an evaluation, right? And you created a repository evaluation form?
Yeah, I did, but I did as an example. But there is no I'm not sure at this point. Should I do them with all of with all of them, or once somebody is assigned to be a contact, or the person responsible for that repository, they are going to sort of like evaluate it too. So what happens there? Or will I be able to include it directly on your list, Anu?
So that is what, right now we have very few repositories
Yeah.
there, so, I just put them in. But I am not sure whether every repository that comes in, the idea was that it would get evaluated and reviewed by the EC.
Yeah. By who? EC. Okay, EC.
The executive committee would look at the evaluations and then,
Yeah.
see. So the evaluator is supposed to go over everything and then recommend whether the repository should be indexed in DataMed or not.
And then we include it on the working list.
The executive committee would review that and say, okay, we do it and we don't do it, and then it should get entered into the CDT worksheet.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if the responder and the evaluator would be the same people or not.
Well, okay, I'm not sure either, but the way I'm looking at things right now, it looks like if I am able to make a short draft for each one of those, showing the main points, then the executive committee should be able to review it at their meetings and decide within the meeting. I don't think we need to assign a person as an evaluator.
Okay.
Just what do you think? If we have the main information about this repository, who is funding them, do they have metadata in standardized format, then the executive committee should be able to look at it in just a few minutes and say, oh, this is worth doing. Don't you think?
Yeah, right. I wonder if this evaluation was also supposed to be the group that George wanted to meet like once a week or so, right?
I don't know about that.
The one where he said we could have like 2 people from each of the different teams.
No,
like
I was.
You and George and Riling and me from UT Health, Jeff and Yuling from CRBS, and Huni and Nansu from DBMI.
Okay.
So once we have the evaluation, I guess, filled up, then based on the criteria, this subgroup was supposed to decide and make a recommendation, and the recommendation would be then approved or not by the EC, because then it goes faster in the EC.
Yes. Well, I don't know about this. Probably George mentioned it in some context where I was not there. But to me, it seems a great idea. So 2 people from each team.
Right.
Yeah. And we should not take more than like half an hour. And in the weeks when there is no new request, we should just not do the meeting.
Okay.
So are you going to let George know? Sorry?
Yeah, one of the other things we could potentially use is, do we have voting in the repo?
I'm not sure I hear you well.
Voting?
Voting.
Oh, okay. So we could do that directly there?
Yeah, because then we could vote on the new ones. We don't even need a call, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so then how does it happen? Can you repeat that for me? Because I didn't hear you well.
Yeah, there should be a voting ability to vote on an issue.
On GitHub?
Yeah.
Oh, so then the people who would be part of this group would just vote.
Yep, yeah, I'm trying to see. Let me see where that is.
Can I go? Yeah. But
But then, Sandra, when you have the evaluator form, can you put it or attach it here?
By attach you mean put it in the comments?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but they're not very small. They're about 2 pages long. But I could. I suppose it wouldn't be a problem. I would just copy and paste in the comments. But you see, most of it is also part of the. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. So if I do add, I will not include what they already sent for information.
Okay.
So then it will be shorter than what I did until now. Because up until now, I was copying all this and adding stuff. But I don't have to copy any of this because it's visible.
Right. So, Sandra, you can see here on the issue
Yeah.
that there is a add your reaction.
Okay.
And I guess people can go in and vote.
Yeah, that's excellent.
So then we don't even need to meet.
Yeah.
So once we have the evaluator form in there, if we can just send an email to everybody, people
Yeah.
can go and look at it and probably vote.
So just yeah, it seems good. However, I need to know exactly the list of people to which I send it to.
Yeah, I'll send you that.
Okay. That sounds excellent.
Okay.
I would also add that it would be useful if people select that they have metadata and some specs or provide some URLs. We can run some tool before we even put this here, just to see that actually they are, saying the right things. So we avoid spam, for instance.
Oh, what? Yeah.
For instance, if they provide the URL, here's the repository URL and it has this format of the metadata, we can simply run a tool and check whether that metadata is indeed there and provide them immediately feedback.
Yeah. I think the URL. I might be wrong. If you want Anu to scroll up a little bit, I don't think the URL is for the metadata. I've looked at some of these. The URL is for the actual repository. And of course, when you go there, I've looked closely at 2 of these. When you go to the website, you are going to realize that they do have metadata because you're reading it. But it's not where it's stored in the background. It's just you see? Like for instance, the only URL is for the home page. So, yeah. It's not like the second list from Anu where you have URLs for actually harvesting.
Yeah.
They provided at the end an RDF descriptor, so we can go straight to it. Why not ask for it?
Yeah.
If metadata accessible in a machine actionable format, XML, blah, 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 you can select which kind. And here, what is the URL for that? And you can simply check it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. However, according to the workflow, that would not be me, but the person that is assigned. That's why it's important to also keep track of what is being done. So, like if I assign one to Anu, she will contact that person or somebody from her team and ask for a URL. That's my understanding. Because I mean, if I don't know that I have to do it, I'm not going to do it.
So what I was suggesting is just to add another small step, which is an automated step that checks these requests before it even gets to the job site. before it's even decided, it should go to
Sorry.
Anu or anybody.
Yeah, but we're only getting a request every week on average, so it's not.
It's not a big deal, I think.
It's not a. I mean.
And so far they have been legitimate, quite legit. I mean, what I've seen is really serious. It's not spam or anything.
Okay, just a thought.
Yeah,
Okay,
I know. Anyway. Okay, so I think I'm all set. If Anu will send me the group that I need to send those forms to. Oh, no. Yeah, I need to just notify the group. The forms are going to be in the GitHub.
Yes. Okay.
Well, I think if it's all right, I think I'm going to log out.
Sure. Thanks for calling in, Sandra.
Thank you very much. No, thank you very much. Thank you. Bye.
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 Yeah, they probably.
Yeah.
I think we are kind of out of time, so probably next week then we can talk about the remaining things that we had on the agenda.
Yeah, the questions from the NIH, I think, do need to be brought before the group. So
Yeah.
let's put them towards the
We'll
top of
talk
the
about
agenda.
it next week.
Okay.
First thing, Ron.
Okay.
All right. Thanks.
Okay.
Bye.
And you'll send me those slides.
Yes, I will.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.